Okay, so we're here with Woody Reiff, and that's R-E-I-F-F. And it's September 17th, 1994. And we're at the Grand Canyon right here above Lava Falls on the Stanton Photo-match trip. And boy, that crew, I can hear those guys pretty good. At some point when we take a break, we should get a shot of this pandemonium over here. You can't see them from where you're at, huh? Well, at some point, let's just get a shot, and then we'll just explain all that stuff if we end up because I can hear you good, but I can just hear this little thing going on in the background. What I've been asking everybody to do is just kind of give a brief rundown of their background, just kind of where you were born and where you grew up and stuff, and how you came to the river. You know, how you came to this country, and then just a little bit about your contact with the river and stuff, to how you ended up on this trip.
All right. I was born in Los Angeles, California, 3rd day of August of 1914. I graduated from grammar school, high school, and 2 years of junior college. In high school, I would work for General Petroleum during vacations. And in the course of being with General Petroleum, we played along the river at times. I guess I really got the river when I was 3 years old. I crossed over the Colorado River with my folks, 1917. And that picture of that river has stuck with me all these years. It was just something I wanted to get down and play with. So over the years, I worked. When I left school, I went to Las Vegas. There were no jobs in Los Angeles. Height of the Depression. Las Vegas, I worked long enough to become acquainted with the man by the name of Baker, who was kind of the kingpin of political situation in Las Vegas at that time. And I did a little work for him in surveying stuff. We had some mine surveys and stuff I went with him on. And when there came a chance, he got me an appointment to Boulder Dam as a guide, at which time I got more with the river. We had a boat we'd used on the river, go downstream. And then I got my own little boat that I put in. I take it down and go down the control road to the river, drop it in, and go fishing downstream, 10-foot full boat. And this, I guess, led to more boating in the river, on the lake, as it formed. And then, with the coming of the war, I had to leave this country. I went to Los Angeles for 22 years. During that time, I spent a lot of vacation time in Glen Canyon. And in the course of Glen Canyon boating, I met guys that were boating through the Grand Canyon. So I made 2 trips with Gay through the Grand Canyon in 1970. Now, of course, I started in Glen Canyon in the 50s, about the time they opened things up in Glen Canyon, where you could go in and you found pots, you were able to take them because they were all already the people who were going through the country, selecting sites to dig. They had all pulled out, and so it was open. If you went in and found a pot, you could keep it. And I took a few pots out of there, 2 of which are in my home today. One was with my nephew Jack, who worked for me when I ran the marina on the lake. Took a pot home with him. And then as far as the getting into the Grand Canyon is concerned, when I got in there through my acquaintanceship with Gay, who owned the boats. I ran with him in 1970 and in 1972. And then that's it as far as my river stuff goes, except that I was spending quite a bit of time in Glen Canyon in my own boats, and anytime I could get a chance. So.
Boy, Las Vegas must have been wild. Las Vegas must have been something else back.
Yeah, Las Vegas. When I lived in Vegas, the last street to the south was, or to the east, I guess it is, was 13th Street. And the one out the LA highway was Gas Avenue. And you could walk from one side of that other town in 15 minutes without any strain. There was no such thing as a strip. There was nothing out the strip at all. The strip started about the time I left, 41, first strip building. The guy that I worked for in the club, when I worked in the club, he wound up owning the Tropicana, and I guess his son is operating now. His son I fished out one time in the lake. He took a fishing trip with, well, we went out fishing is what we did, and he crawled up on the back end of the boat, and he's got his leg in a cast, and he fell off. Fished him out by the scruff of his neck. But Vegas was a nice town in those days. Everybody knew everybody.
So the gambling didn't start up until the 40s?
Oh, they were gambling. They were gambling there. There was a Vegas club, which Cal Housel's owned. There was the Northern Club, which was in the middle of the second blocks down on the, if you were walking south from the railroad station, west from the railroad station, east from the railroad station. Las Vegas had always been twisted 90 degrees to me. So, when you walk down the street, it'd be on your left side in the second block down. Now there's another club, another block down the street in the corner of the at the a hotel down there with an Indian tribe name, and I can't think of the name of it now. But anyway, that was the third club in town, and that was all the clubs there were that were of any consequence at all. And they were none of them any bigger than 60 feet wide and maybe 60 feet long. Most of them smaller than that. The Northern Club was all of them barn front and the games out behind. No gals on the stage and all this stuff. They were good old saloons.
Those early days in Glen Canyon, now, So what were the circumstances of those trips going through there? The dam was already a done deal.
The dam that knew the dam was going in. The guys that worked for whatever agency it was have all been into the canyons, and they've gone through all the canyons as best they could in the time they had, and then they opened it to the general public. I mean, anybody could go in, and if you found a pot, it was yours. They asked if you had no other use for it to donate it, if you would bring it in, or at least register with us. So the thing is that there were a lot of places that never got really into. I mean, when they started work on that, there was no water up the canyons, you know. I mean, it was just, you had to walk up all the canyons. And there were places where you couldn't get up some of them. So as soon as the lake started up, feeding back in those canyons, it opened up a lot more territory, a lot of stuff they couldn't get into before. But of course, a lot of things were lost. I mean, there was a panel that, what was the name of the creek that came in? It was no name. That's not quite right for it. Forgotten Canyon. It wasn't on a map. But there was a great big panel there that was, perhaps 65, 75 feet long, just covered with petroglyphs and pictographs. And the same way across the river on the other side, which was one of the few places along through there that the canyons were directly across the river from one another. Can't remember what they tabbed that canyon with, but it'll come to me. That's been a long time ago. You know, that was in the early 50s.
The thing is Charlie walked.
It seems like, boy, there was a bunch of Indians in there.
That's what Lew
Yeah.
Sounded like.
Well, most of the Indians were pretty well out of the area of the river. They were back. They'd bring their flocks down for water if they didn't have enough water up high. But most of them hesitated to bring them any closer to the lake than they had to.
I've got a pretty good route for you.
Like
Route plan.
The canyon.
Yeah. Dad will probably drive the big bus.
Why can't I think of the name of that
The Legacy.
canyon?
I will. Oh no, Charlie.
Antelope.
I'll probably.
Antelope Canyon. There were perhaps half a dozen Indian people with flocks of sheep in that canyon, and none of them were down as close as that plant is now. I remember going up that canyon with, who was it? Anyway, a friend. I was just showing him around. We come to a ledge, and here's a beaver sitting on the ledge. I mean, he's tired out. He's been swimming. He can't find any place to land. Sheer wall. He finally found a little cubby hole and sat down on it. And when we come out, he was still sitting there, but he was willing to get over on a paddle. So I put him on my deck of my boat and brought him out where he could get to dry ground.
This was after the lake started to rise?
Yeah. This was after the lake started to rise. It wasn't up very far yet, but it just kept crawling up. And this is things that let these guys that are hunting pots get in a little further all the time. They'd make the rounds. The people that was on that lake in those days were either, most of them were not pot hunters in the sense of being pot hunters. they would like to have some stuff for their homes. Put them in their homes and keep them just like they would be trophies. Most of them were just people that loved the country and wanted to get out into it. As the more people came in, it became a different type of person. It became playground. The drunks began to come. There began to be trash thrown around. See? I mean, those first people took care of it, but it wasn't long before I had enough. When I put 4 years in up the lake, and the 4th year I decided that was all. Went to work for the Park Service then.
What'd you do for those guys?
I was the first ranger at Lee's Ferry to check out riverboats.
And when was that?
That was 68 or 69. I think it was 69, but I'm not absolutely positive of it. That's the same year that my wife today showed up at Lee's Fair at Marble Canyon. See, I knew Joan, but I didn't know Sandy. And Sandy was hired on as manager of Marble Canyon Lodge that year. And she'd know which year it is, but the years kind of get by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was a pretty wild time to be checking river trips out, it seems like.
Yeah, it was something new. And not only that, but see, when I quit playing with the river when my wife died, which was 1958. So I sold all my equipment, all my boats, everything pertaining to the river. And not too long ago, it was at the shindig we just had at the college. I met the guy that bought my boats.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And who was that?
Here again, I should have written his name down. I can't tell you. But he bought them. Now, this other guy's name will have to come to me. He probably can tell you what the guy's name was. But it was one of those things that this guy, I'm standing there talking to somebody, and somehow or other this guy says, well, he said, I'd like to know if anybody knows who had an outfit that was called Bullhead Expeditions. I said, I did. See, I owned a place at Bullhead. I built it, Dee and I built it to retire to. And when she died, I sold it too. Sold it and got rid of the whole suit match, everything that was there. And went to Mexico. But when I told him that, yeah, well, he says, this is the guy that bought your boats, and I'm the guy that did so and so. Everything began to come together. He found out what he wanted to know, and I found out what I wanted to know, but I didn't write it down.
Yeah. Okay.
There's Arizona plates on. I says, yeah. He says, where are you from? I said, Flagstaff. He says, well, I'm from Flagstaff. I said, well, what do you do? He says, well, I work in the river business. I says, you know Gay Stale? Oh, yeah, I know Gay Stale. I said, but that's him standing right over there. So it wound up that I pulled his trailer out of there. Oh, he was having his trailer repaired. Something he had to have welded on it and stuff. And when he got it repaired, he started for the border. And we were on our way out then. So we get up there. Well, he takes out like he's just flying 4 feet off the ground, you know. And at that time, there were rocks like that in the road. Oh, I said to Sandy, I said, he'll never get where he's going. So, wasn't long before we found him with the tongue of the trailer pulled out.
Yeah.
So
That sounds like Vladimir.
he had no, it was the tongue of his, it was the hitch on his car that was pulled out. So there's no place to go but back. I mean, he can't get any welding done for a long ways ahead, but he can go back and get it done and catch up. I said, we'll pull your trailer on, rolling on, and when you can have it back when you catch up with it. So we pulled it, I don't know how many miles, perhaps 30, 40, and he caught up, hooked it on, took off again.
Broke it again?
Yeah. No, we didn't see him again, fortunately. I think we stopped before we caught up with him again.
When you were working at Lee's Ferry, when you were the ranger, what was your job then? How did they lay out your
primarily they were
responsibility?
beginning to make some rules for the thing. And I was looking things over, seeing what needed to have done to set up these rules. And so that first year we weren't doing much as far as changing things goes, but getting set to change things by making rules for such and such a way you put on your jacket and all this kind of stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know how many times they yell at me to put my jacket on. Well, that top button I still can't wear.
Yeah.
But those are the rules. They started, and every ranger that has come in there has added to them, finding things. And even the boatmen have come in and said things about some of the things that should be done about.
Was there a lot of trips going out of there in 68, 69? Was that a pretty busy time, pretty busy job to be having?
I can't tell you how many boats left there, or trips. I know it was about the time things started to go. In another 4 or 5 years, they had probably doubled their capacity, doubled the number of people they were taking down there. I'm sure that those records are still available there at the ranger station. They had everything else stacked in there. So, yeah, but I don't remember. I just don't remember. Of course, see, I was only working. I was seasonal ranger, you know, and I went to work at the time that the season started, and I left when the season was over. So some of the stuff was, one year they didn't even have a ranger down there in the winter after I left. The year before I was there, Ed Abbey was the ranger, and the next year when I was down there, Joe Falasic and I were both there together. It was my job was the river.
When you how'd that first trip with Gay Stavely go, that first Canyoneers trip you did?
Well, it was really a shakedown trip is what it amounted to. I don't remember just everything that happened on the trip, but if it could happen, it did.
I've heard it was a pretty good story.
If it could happen, it did, yeah. I don't remember which trip was which, but both of them were fiascos, you know. I mean, they just, all the outfits were fishing for something new, something they could get enough people on there to pay to make a trip. And what they've developed now is very close to what we were getting to, but not close enough at that time. We put the tube on, and we put a pair in the center, and then we put the second pair outside those, and it was just a little. The frame wasn't stout enough to take it. Let's put it that way. Those tubes develop quite a bit of pressure when they get, waves kicking at them. So I don't know how many times we had to stop going down. I do know we had to stop at Deer Creek, and we built a fire and got a blower out and straightened a bunch of bent pipe and put it back in, because I wouldn't take that boat through Crystal in the condition it was in. And it went through Crystal all right, but they were still folded up. I mean, you can do as good a job as you can possibly do under the circumstances, but it's still not all up to snuff, I mean, but we wound up I don't know. I've been looking all day today, trying to pick out the spot where we sat for a motor. Now, the pilot, he wasn't exactly sober some of the time. I didn't realize it up until, after this incident was over. We hit the wall, bowed the boat, and the boat made a 180-degree turn, 360-degree turn. Hit the wall with the front end of the boat again the second time. There's 3 knobs sticking out, and all looked identical, like points. Hit the third one the same way, but the third one, instead of making the circle this time, the front end folds down. And the front end not being able to go anywhere, the back end goes down. Everybody's sitting on a little island.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Fortunately, it pulled loose in the front end, and which let the back end come up, and then we sat and waited for a motor. I mean, the motor went underwater. So it was one of those trips that we had a few gremlins with us.
Better to sit and tell about it afterwards than to be on it.
Yeah,
Sounds like.
yeah. But you could sit and laugh at everything that happened. That pilot should not. I mean, I didn't realize it. He was looped. I mean, had more in him than he could take care of. I don't know. And I can't, like I say, I can't pick stuff from one trip to the other. Everything is kind of all put together that I remember, and I don't remember which trip is which.
Yeah. Well, those are pretty wild and woolly days, and I know managing Hatch there and seeing all those trips go out. Does it seem different now, the way that things are run now?
Oh, yes. I mean, this is a smooth operation we're riding on here. This is a real nice rig. And I kind of imagine Gay has got about the same thing. I haven't been on one of Gay's rigs in a long time. Well, I haven't even stopped by his shop in 3 or 4 years. First time I've seen him for years was at this party they had the other day. Things, Joni says everything's all right between them, but they don't get together too well.
Yeah.
And generally Joni's with us when we go somewhere. So,
Well, what are we? I wonder what. Can you think of anything we oughta? What are we not covering?
When was your first trip then through Marble and Grand Canyon? Was that with Gay? That was the first time?
yeah,
you did
that was there was a trip in '70 and a trip in '72. I don't even know, they were mid-season, I know that, but I don't know just exactly what months either. That's nice the way I work. I mean, I just don't have to take off.
And then so in Glen Canyon was mid-50s, 55, 56. You did your first trip in there.
Yeah. Nobody in there. Nobody. Well, we met Bud Prettyman at I don't remember the place, but Bud Prettyman and a party of about 6 people, not including he's got a gal who goes with him as a cook, and then another one that's a pilot for the boat. And Georgie, we met Georgie a couple times when we were in. I don't remember meeting anybody else in all the years we went in there.
When you go by it now and you see the lake, how does that make you feel, or do you even think about it? If you had your druthers, which would you rather have?
If I had my druthers, I'd rather have it the way it was. But I'm not going to object to the lake, except to say that they need somebody to put their finger down and say this trash throwing and all this crap that has to be picked out of the lake shouldn't be. And I would limit the size of boats on that lake. I mean, they're going to have one hell of a problem up there with all the drunks they have. Boats going at 75 miles an hour. Yeah, the walls are not far enough apart to permit a guy with a reasonable sized boat to open his boat up. They got too big a waves for him to fight from those big craft they got operating in that lake today.
Well, how are we doing down here, management-wise and stuff? Can you see a difference between now and '70? And
yeah, what I see here is, well, start out with, I had expected to see it really littered, and this is not littered. I mean, I can't say it looks real good. There's other things though, such as too many trips at one time. I mean, they ought to be maybe reducing the number of trips they're running instead of trying to get everybody through here they can go. They got to let it have a little rest. I don't know how they can do it, but I mean, they've kind of limited the number of trips they're taking for just the common run of people that get on a list and go through the Grand Canyon. Hell, we've been on that list for damn near 20 years, and we're still way back 195 or something. But there's something wrong there too. I mean, guys there's all these guys are sitting back and they pick up these trips that are lost. In other words,
cancellations, yeah. I know.
In other words, the next guy on the list should be picked instead of
just the next guy who calls.
Yeah.
That's what Woody's talking about is the private allocation system.
Yeah.
The way it is it takes a long time to be on the waiting list, and if you just call up, you get the first people. If you just keep calling them, you
if
get a
you're lucky
cancellation.
enough to get your phone call in first, you're in. It just happens to be that the guy that pushed the plug down there missed the plug the first push.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like some of the things there. And, well, no, taking it all in all, they're doing a pretty good job. But like I say, I just feel that things should be slowed a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I wonder, Karen, I wonder what we're forgetting historically. I wonder what usually.
Yeah, what was the attitude of the National Park Service toward the river when you were down at Lee's Ferry?
Well, I can't tell you. I don't know just exactly where they were going at that time, and I don't think they did. All they were doing was, well, I don't know how to say it, feeling their way, maybe, be the way best. But they were much more concerned with the lake than they were with the river. The river just kind of hung in limbo for quite a while. They just kept getting more people on. They finally had to put somebody on it. The lake, it grew too fast too. I mean, just kept putting in more boats on the lake. And I don't know. Maybe I gripe too much.
Oh, I know what you mean.
But I don't think they can have the boating experience with the number of boats that's on the lake today that they had back 20 years ago. I don't think it can be done. It's possible to get out of sight on some of the back water, but you get ready and get back out in the main channel, and there they go again. Yeah, I remember a guy that brought up a sailing boat. Well, actually, it wasn't a sailing boat. It was a Boston whaler that he had rigged a sail on, and he sailed around that lake for. Well, he was in and out of the marina up there for perhaps 2 weeks, going all the side canyons. And with something like that, you know, you can get on up the canyon, where with those motorboats, they get back in that canyon and they swallow that straw that's legs on the lake, the stuff that falls off the one that drops a little juniper. A little piece of juniper, I mean, they come in motor plug completely full of juniper leaves, I guess you would say. So some of them you couldn't do anything for, so they had to get somebody to tow them down the lake. But they can, with a small boat, they can enjoy the lake more than it just as a lake, not a playground. I don't know.
Okay, I think we can. What do you, Jeff? Can you think of any questions you'd like to add?
Woody's mad at the world.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't get that impression.
You haven't talked a lot about this trip. If that's okay, watch it for a second.
Okay.
This is a pretty dynamic shot.
Yeah.
Can you see behind you, Woody? The lights just on a couple of
So-
peaks there.
Oh. Sheep, you say?
Oh no, we're looking at the light.
Oh, the light. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I've got a few pictures taken of those things that just get lit up on the very top. Some that'll. Yeah, I got. Every time I go to Rainbow Bridge, I take about 10 pictures. Wife's going to use one of them for a logo for her work.
What's her work? What's she doing with that?
She's oh damn. When it comes to medicine, I don't know anything. I mean, medical term. And I'm getting to where I forget things real easily. Psychiatrist.
That's pretty good. Maybe she'd give us some free counseling.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
When you were checking people in who were doing trips, what percentage of the folks who were going to run were women in '69?
At the time we were
When
checking
you were
out,
at Lee's Ferry?
I don't recall any women. There were women on the trips.
Right.
Now most of these that I had to check were trips, private trips going out. All the outfitters had been appraised of what they had to do, and I'd go check them, just looking around, not holding anybody up, looking around to see what was being done. But the other ones, the private trips, I had to really go over and be sure that they had everything they needed. We got a new cow.
What did you think of Georgie when you met her?
Well, I've known Georgie for a long, long time. In fact, I helped her husband build a home they built down Laconia Boulevard in Los Angeles. Whitey was a truck driver for Kent Lane and Zola. And I don't know, I don't remember just how I got in be friends with him, but it just kind of grew, and he knew that I was rather familiar with construction, and he asked me if I'd give him a hand down on the job, and I went down. We got the framing up. Once we got the framing up, then he could take it from there. See, so, that was probably just as the war was over, just as things began to come back, 48, 49, thereabouts. And of course I met Georgie then, and I learned some of the nicks and knacks of putting rubber boats together. And when I got a chance to buy some rubber boats, I bought them. I had two AR-10s and one. I don't know what it was called. It was a 14-foot boat, but I don't know that it had. It was about like an LCR. LCM, excuse me. The other ones were 20. They were 16 feet, I guess, if I remember correctly. The LCRs.
What do you think? Maybe we should wrap this up. What are we forgetting? Surely there.
I don't know. I
don't know either. I know that 15 minutes from now I'll think of something that we should have asked you and didn't.
That's easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do the same thing. Wife will say, "Did you say so?" No, I meant to.
That's the story of my life, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but I am not happy with a lot of the directions that these places are taking. I mean, they're not going the right way. They've got to get down and get it in hand so they can handle it.
How is it that they're not going the right way?
Well, they're letting the thing expand too fast. They can't control what's there now, and they're still getting more. I mean, the bigger it gets, the less control they're going to have. People have to learn. The general public has to learn first to take care of it, and then they can relax some of their rules and regulations. But it has to come from the other direction. Instead of stepping on there and arresting them and giving them a fine, let them go out and see what's happening. Go out, do the work, picking up the crap that's left lay around. One of my pet peeves: take a Coke bottle or a Coke, whatever can, walk up the trail, and the trail drops off like that side. I got 60-degree angle. This side goes up the same way. Well, they never put that bottle off on this side when they get rid of it. They always toss it in something down there about 40 feet. So you gotta go after it. All they have to do is, if they don't want to carry it, they can put it there and somebody else will pick it up.
Well, I think they ought to carry it. Well, thank you for talking to us, Woody.
You are welcome.
It's very much.
I guess we better pack this stuff up and get ready for dinner.
Dinner.
I'm sorry to cheat you out of that card game, but I'm glad
Well,
that you
it'll
did.
probably
Take
wait
you
for
away
me
from
when
a
I
card
get
game?
back. It'll probably
Oh, my
wait
goodness.
there when I get back. Yeah, mark it radical and stick it in the middle.